INFJs are quiet by nature, but their silence isn't always peaceful. Sometimes it's the sound of emotional collapse. It's how they respond when the pain becomes too much. When someone with so much depth, care, and empathy starts to shut down, it doesn't happen overnight. It builds, it grows, and then suddenly they disappear, not physically, but emotionally. The INFJ is a personality type known for being thoughtful, intuitive, and deeply empathetic. They listen more than they speak. They feel more than they show. They understand people in ways that seem almost impossible to explain. But what most people don't see is how heavy that understanding can become. Over time, too much pain, whether it's their own or someone else's, starts to wear them down. They don't explode. They don't usually lash out. Instead, they close the door quietly. They stop sharing. They stop opening up. They stop showing the emotions they once wore with pride. And to the outside world, it might just look like they're being quiet or needing space. But what's really happening is emotional shutdown. This video is about what leads to that shutdown. It's about the emotional buildup, the invisible weight that INFJs carry until they can't anymore. It's not weakness. It's not drama. It's what happens when someone gives everything and forgets to protect themselves. We're going to look at 7 deep and often overlooked reasons why INFJs shut down after too much pain. These aren't simple causes. They're patterns that form over years. They come from the way INFJs are wired and from how the world often misunderstands that wiring. For INFJs, understanding these patterns can help break the cycle. It can help them find their voice again and create space to heal. For everyone else, it's a window into why someone you care about might be slowly disappearing behind a smile. Let's start by understanding what's really going on inside an INFJ when the lights begin to go out. Reason number 1: emotional overload from absorbing others' pain. INFJs don't just notice how others feel, they absorb it. When someone near them is angry, sad, scared, or anxious, the INFJ feels it too. They may not always show it, but that emotional weight sticks. It's not something they choose. It's part of who they are. Over time, this emotional absorption becomes exhausting. In every room, every conversation, every glance, they're picking up energy. Sometimes they carry their own pain, but more often, it's the pain of others that starts to pile up. Friends, family, co-workers, even strangers, they feel all of it. And they don't know how to turn it off. They try to help. They offer comfort, advice, or a listening ear. They stay up late on the phone. They take on other people's burdens because they care. But with every moment of support they give, their own emotional space shrinks. It doesn't feel like a problem at first. It just feels like being a good person. But what starts as empathy can turn into overload. The INFJ begins to feel tired all the time, not physically, but emotionally. Their mood drops. They feel heavy, like they're dragging something invisible behind them. They might even start to feel emotions that don't match their situation. That's when the lines begin to blur between what's theirs and what isn't. Eventually, they stop knowing how they feel at all. Everything inside gets mixed up. The pain isn't just one thing, it's everything, everywhere. And because they don't want to hurt anyone, they don't say anything. They just keep absorbing, keep helping, keep smiling. This cycle continues until their mind and heart can't take anymore. They start shutting down, not out of anger, but out of survival. They become quiet, distant, emotionally numb. It's the only way to stop the constant flood. It's the only way to protect what little peace they have left. INFJs often feel guilty about this shutdown. They think, I should be stronger, or I'm letting people down. But the truth is, it's a natural response to emotional overload. Their mind is doing what it needs to do to survive. The danger is when this becomes a long-term pattern. INFJs might disconnect from others completely. They stop reaching out. They stop feeling joy. They go into a kind of emotional hibernation, and the longer they stay there, the harder it is to come back. The key is recognizing the signs early. For INFJs, it's important to set boundaries and remember that it's not their job to carry everyone else's pain. It's okay to step back. It's okay to rest. Because if they don't, the shutdown will happen, and it won't be easy to reverse. Reason number 2: suppression of personal emotions. NFJs are great at helping others understand their emotions. But when it comes to their own feelings, things get complicated. They often suppress what they feel, not because they don't have emotions, but because they don't want to burden anyone. They push their own pain aside to make space for someone else's. This habit starts early. Maybe they were the quiet child who didn't want to cause trouble. Maybe they were the one who always helped friends through drama, even when they were hurting themselves. Over time, they learn that showing emotion makes people uncomfortable. Or worse, it gets ignored, so they start hiding it. They tell themselves it's not the right time, that other people have it worse, that they'll deal with it later. But later never comes. And the more they suppress, the heavier it gets. Emotions don't disappear, they build. And for INFJs, that build-up becomes dangerous. They may seem calm on the outside. They may smile, nod, and act fine. But inside, they're holding back a storm. Every disappointment, every heartbreak, every moment of sadness, it's all there, waiting to be felt. And when there's no outlet, it begins to weigh them down. Sometimes they try to journal, talk to someone, or cry quietly alone. But even that can feel unsafe. They worry about being judged, misunderstood, or dismissed. So they stay quiet. They carry it alone. And they think, maybe if I just stay busy, I won't feel it. But that only works for so long. Eventually, something small will happen. A sharp word, a forgotten birthday, a cancelled plan. And everything they've been holding in comes rushing to the surface. Not as anger, not even as tears, but as silence, disconnection, shutdown. This emotional shutdown is a way of coping. The INFJ can't keep stuffing things down, so they disconnect from feeling altogether. They go numb. Things that once made them excited now feel flat. People they cared about now feel distant. They stop trying to explain and start pulling away. They might still function, go to work, smile in public, respond to texts, but something's missing. Their spark, their warmth, their emotional depth. It's hidden behind a wall they built just to stay standing. The hard part is that most people don't notice. INFJs are good at faking okay, but inside, they're shutting down because they've forgotten how to express their own pain and don't trust anyone enough to try. This pattern doesn't end until the INFJ finds a way to feel safe again. Safe to speak, safe to cry, safe to be messy and human. That takes time, patience, and the right environment. But once they feel that safety, the wall can come down and the healing can begin. Reason number 3, repeated experiences of being misunderstood. NFJs are deep thinkers. Their thoughts are layered, their feelings complex. They often sense things that others miss and process emotions in ways that go far beyond the surface. But because they're different, they often feel misunderstood, and it happens more than once. This feeling of being misunderstood starts early. Maybe they try to express a thought and someone laughs it off. Maybe they ask a deeper question and people avoid answering. Over time, they learn that their way of thinking and feeling doesn't match what most people expect, so they stop sharing as much. They might be told they're too sensitive or too intense. Their silence is mistaken for arrogance. Their careful observations are seen as judgment. Their strong values are called unrealistic, and none of that reflects who they truly are. Every time an INFJ opens up and is shut down, a small piece of them closes. They tell themselves people won't get it, or I'll just keep it to myself next time. And little by little, they begin to hide more of who they are. Even in close relationships, they can feel unseen. They may love deeply, listen fully, and give their best, only to feel like no one really knows them. They might try to explain what they need emotionally, but it gets dismissed or misunderstood. And that hurts, not because they expect perfection, but because they just want to be understood. This kind of repeated disconnect builds a quiet sadness. It's not always obvious. INFJs can appear calm and pleasant, even when they feel completely alone inside. But under the surface, every time they're misunderstood, the emotional distance grows. They feel like they're on the outside, looking in, even with people they care about. Eventually, that leads to a shutdown. It's not a decision made in anger. It's a decision made in exhaustion. They stop explaining. They stop opening up. They protect themselves by withdrawing, not out of spite, but because they're tired of trying. This kind of shutdown is especially hard because it's often invisible. People around them don't realize what's happening. They think the INFJ is just busy or being quiet. But in reality, the INFJ is building a wall to avoid more pain, To the INFJ, being misunderstood isn't just frustrating, it's painful. It makes them question their worth. It makes them doubt if anyone will ever truly get them. And that doubt feeds the urge to shut down completely. The only thing that breaks this pattern is real connection, not shallow kindness, not forced positivity, but genuine understanding, someone listening without judging, someone who sees the depth without fear, someone who stays even when it's complicated. Until that happens, many INFJs will stay hidden, because silence feels safer than being seen the wrong way again. Reason number 4, exposure to toxic relationships. NFJs are helpers by nature. They want to heal. They want to understand. They want to see the best in people, even when it's hidden beneath layers of pain. This makes them compassionate, loyal, and deeply caring. But it also makes them vulnerable to toxic relationships. They're often drawn to people who are broken or hurting. They don't run from darkness. They move toward it, hoping they can bring light. And at first, this connection feels meaningful. The INFJ feels like they matter, like they're needed, like they're helping someone grow. But in toxic relationships, that hope turns into harm. The other person may manipulate, guilt trip, or take without giving. And the INFJ, because they care so deeply, keeps trying. They believe things will change. That if they love harder, listen more, or sacrifice just a little extra, it will get better. It doesn't. Instead, they lose themselves. Their energy drops. Their needs vanish. Their joy disappears. And still they stay, because walking away feels like giving up, but staying costs them more than they realize. In time, the INFJ begins to feel hollow. Their thoughts are clouded. Their emotions are tangled. They start questioning their reality. Was it their fault? Did they expect too much? Why do they feel so empty? This confusion is part of the damage. Toxic people often twist the truth, shift blame, and avoid accountability. INFJs, who are naturally introspective, turn that blame inward. They begin to believe they're the problem. Eventually, something snaps. The INFJ shuts down, not just emotionally, but mentally and physically. They stop speaking. They stop giving. They stop showing up in ways they used to. It's not because they've stopped caring. It's because they've been drained dry. What hurts most is that INFJs often blame themselves for the shutdown. They think they should have been stronger. They should have left sooner. But the truth is, their kindness was never the problem. It was being stuck in a place where that kindness was abused. This shutdown is a defense. It's the INFJ's last line of protection. It's their way of saying, no more. And while it may seem sudden to others, it's the result of pain that built up over time. Quietly, invisibly. Healing from this kind of shutdown takes time. INFJs need space. They need peace. They need to feel safe again. And most of all, they need to remember who they were before the relationship took so much from them. Because deep down, the INFJ is still there. Kind, whole, and worthy of real love. Reason number 5. Chronic overcommitment and burnout. INFJs have a strong drive to help. They want to be useful, to contribute, to make a difference. They say yes often, not because they want to impress anyone, but because they truly care. Whether it's work, family, or friendships, they give time, energy, and emotion without holding back. But that habit comes with a cost. INFJs rarely say no. They put others first. They take on extra projects. They stay late to help. They're the friend who listens, the coworker who picks up the slack, the family member who always shows up. And slowly, they start to disappear from their own life. They don't realize it right away. They think they're managing. They think they can handle it. But inside, their energy is draining. Their stress builds. Their joy fades. And by the time they notice something's wrong, they're already burned out. Burnout for an INFJ doesn't always look like physical exhaustion. It's emotional. It's feeling numb, detached, or empty. It's waking up and feeling like nothing matters. It's losing interest in things they once loved. It's resenting the people they're still trying to help. This happens because they overcommit, not just with time, but with emotion. Every task, every person, every problem, they carry it all, and they rarely ask for help. They think, I can handle this, or they need me. And that belief keeps them trapped in a cycle of giving until there's nothing left. Eventually, the INFJ starts to shut down. They stop answering messages. They cancel plans. They zone out in meetings. They avoid conversations that used to matter. It's not that they don't care, It's that they've run out of anything to give. This kind of shutdown often brings guilt. INFJs think they've failed. They think they're letting people down. But the real failure is believing they had to carry everything alone in the first place. To recover, they need space. Real space. Not just a weekend off, but time to reflect, reset, and reconnect with themselves. They need to say no more often. They need to protect their time. They need to rest, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. And most importantly, they need to forgive themselves for burning out. Because burnout isn't weakness, it's a signal, a message from the body and mind saying, this isn't sustainable. INFJs don't need to stop caring. They just need to learn that they matter too, that their needs are just as important as everyone else's, and that protecting their peace is not selfish, it's essential. Reason number 6, conflict avoidance, leading to internal stress. INFJs hate conflict. It makes them uncomfortable, overwhelmed, and emotionally unsettled. They don't like raised voices, tense conversations, or confrontations that feel aggressive. Most of the time, they'll do anything to avoid it, even if it means sacrificing their own needs. At first, this seems like a strength. They keep the peace. They listen. They compromise. They walk away instead of fighting. But underneath that calm exterior, something else is happening. Their emotions don't go away. They just go inward. And over time, that avoidance builds serious internal stress. When INFJs avoid conflict, it doesn't mean they're okay. It means they're choosing silence over discomfort. But silence has a cost. It means unspoken feelings, unresolved frustrations, and unmet needs. All of that pressure starts to pile up, even if no one else sees it. They might avoid telling a friend they were hurt. They might let a partner cross a line, hoping it was just a one-time thing. They might say it's fine at work when it really isn't. And each time they do, they swallow a little bit more emotion. This creates a gap between what they feel and what they show. On the outside, they seem patient and composed. On the inside, they feel like they're carrying a weight that keeps getting heavier. The longer they avoid speaking up, the more that weight grows. Eventually, the stress becomes too much. The INFJ may start to feel anxious, disconnected, or emotionally numb. They begin to shut down, not just from the situation, but from themselves. They lose touch with what they even want or feel. Because they've spent so long making room for others, they forgot to make space for themselves. This shutdown can confuse the people around them. Everything seemed fine. There were no arguments, no obvious problems. But what they didn't see was the emotional buildup behind the INFJ silence. And once that wall goes up, it's hard to bring it down. The solution isn't becoming aggressive. INFJs don't need to become someone they're not. But they do need to express themselves sooner, clearly, calmly, and honestly. They need to speak before the silence becomes suffocating. They also need to remind themselves that setting boundaries or disagreeing isn't wrong. Conflict, when handled with care, can bring growth and clarity. It can prevent resentment, and it can keep emotional space clear and open. When INFJs learn to face discomfort with honesty, they protect their peace from the inside out. And that makes shutdown less likely, because they're no longer carrying pain that was never meant to be buried. Reason number 7, lack of safe spaces for emotional expression. INFJs feel deeply, but they don't open up easily. They need to feel safe before they'll show their real thoughts or emotions. And in many cases, they go years without finding that kind of safety. Without it, they learn to keep everything inside. A safe space isn't just about physical comfort. It's about emotional trust. INFJs need to feel that they won't be judged, mocked, or dismissed for what they share. They need to know they'll be heard, not just listened to, but truly understood. Unfortunately, the world doesn't always offer that. Many INFJs grow up in environments where emotions are seen as weakness, where being quiet means being overlooked, where sensitivity is something to hide, not something to honor. So they learn early on to protect themselves by staying silent. Even in adulthood, they often struggle to find people who can hold space for them. They may have friends and partners who care, but don't know how to handle emotional depth. So the INFJ hides the real stuff. They smile, they nod, they carry it alone. This leads to emotional isolation. They can be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone. Because what they really need, a safe space to be vulnerable, doesn't exist in their daily life. That kind of isolation is dangerous. It slowly chips away at their emotional strength. They stop journaling. They stop reaching out. They stop trying to explain what they feel. And over time, they shut down. It's not because they want to. It's because every time they tried to open up in the past, it didn't feel safe. It backfired. It hurt. And now, silence feels like the only way to protect themselves. This emotional shutdown looks like numbness, disinterest, withdrawal. It's not coldness. It's a lack of safe places to warm up. And until that changes, the INFJ stays hidden. What helps is finding even one person who gets it. One person who doesn't rush them, judge them, or offer shallow advice. One person who listens, holds space, and respects the depth. That kind of connection can break the silence and help them start feeling again. But most importantly, INFJs need to create safe space within themselves, a space where they can be honest, where they can cry, feel, or fall apart without shame, a space where their feelings are valid, even if no one else understands. Because once they feel safe, inside or out, they begin to open again, and the shutdown starts to fade. When an INFJ shuts down, it doesn't happen suddenly. It's a slow build, a quiet process, a series of moments where they felt too much, gave too much, and spoke too little. It's the result of carrying emotional weight without help, and finally reaching the limit. Each reason in this video is part of a larger pattern. A pattern built from deep care, strong values, and the need to protect their inner world. INFJs don't shut down to be dramatic. They shut down to survive. For INFJs, the first step to healing is awareness. Understanding what leads to the shutdown helps them take back control. It helps them catch the signs early, protect their energy, and set better boundaries. It reminds them they don't have to carry everything alone. And for everyone else, the message is just as important. If you care about an INFJ, learn to listen. Make space for silence. Respect their need for peace. And most of all, let them be themselves without pressure or judgment. Because the more seen and supported an INFJ feels, the less likely they are to retreat, and the more they trust the space around them, the more they'll share what's inside. INFJs are strongest when they're not hiding. When they feel safe, they bring light, wisdom, and deep connection to the people around them. Help them stay open by being the kind of space where they never have to shut down.